Today, we are diving into a really fascinating and honestly a kind of terrifying psychological trap. It's something that happens in families, with your friends, and even in the biggest corporate boardrooms. It's called the Abilene paradox, and it all kicks off with a story. So, picture this. It's a ridiculously hot day in Coleman, Texas. We're talking 104 degrees. You know, the kind of oppressive heat where you just do not move unless you absolutely have to. The air's thick, the sun's just beating down, and really, the best place to be is exactly where our family is. Sitting on a shaded porch, sipping lemonade, and just playing a nice, slow game of dominoes. They're comfortable, they're totally relaxed, nobody's bored, nobody's antsy, right here, right now, everything is perfect. Which brings us to the big mystery, right? If everyone was so perfectly happy, how in the world did this whole family end up agreeing to a long, dusty, completely miserable road trip that not a single one of them actually wanted to take? Well, the answer is the Abilene paradox. Okay, so let's break down how this mess happened. How does a group make a collective decision that nobody wants? This is the story of that first fateful trip to Abilene. So it all starts with this super casual, off-the-cuff suggestion from the father-in-law. You know, he's not demanding it, he's not even really pushing for it, he's kind of just throwing an idea into the air, maybe just to say something. And right away, his daughter-in-law chimes in. But, and this is the most important part, she is totally lying. Inside, she's thinking, are you kidding me? In this heat? But she doesn't want to hurt his feelings or seem like a bad sport. So instead, she just fakes the enthusiasm. And then her husband is up next. He doesn't want to go either. But now he sees two people who are apparently all for it. So to avoid being the one who rocks the boat, he agrees too. But he cleverly passes the final decision off to his mother. And boom, she closes the loop. She thinks it's a terrible idea too. But at this point, everyone else is seemingly on board, and she's not about to be the one to ruin everybody's good time. And just like that, a unanimous decision is made. And this is where it gets just completely absurd. You look at the math, and despite getting a unanimous yes, the actual number of people who wanted to go was a big fat zero. They managed to get 100% agreement on something that 100% of them were against. So what do? They all pile into the car and head off on this adventure that they all agreed to, but that every single one of them was dreading. Let's see how that went for them. I mean, the trip was, you guessed it, a total disaster. We're talking over 100 miles round trip in a sweltering car with no AC. The food at the cafeteria was just awful, the service took forever, and the ride home was just this tense, angry silence. 4 hours of their lives completely gone, spent on something awful. Finally, they're back on the porch, probably covered in sweat and regret. And somebody snaps. The husband just says what's on everyone's mind, finally letting out the truth that they've all been holding in for hours. And with that, the floodgates just open. The blame game starts immediately. The mother-in-law points her finger right at her son-in-law, accusing him of forcing her into it. And he's like, what? I only went because I thought you wanted to. All that fake harmony just evaporates. And then you get the final ridiculous twist. The guy who started this whole thing, the father-in-law, he admits he never wanted to go either. He just threw the idea out there because he thought everyone else was bored and looking for something to do. The whole awful experience was built on nothing but a complete misunderstanding. So this isn't just some funny story about a bad family outing. No, this is actually a formal management theory. And the guy who came up with it, Jerry B. Harvey, says this kind of disaster happens in 5 pretty predictable steps. So here is the official definition. See, the paradox happens because we're bad at managing agreement, not conflict. We spend all our time worrying about what to do when people disagree, but a lot of the time, the real danger is when everyone privately agrees on something, but is just too afraid to say it out loud. Harvey actually broke down this whole journey to Abilene into these 5 phases. It all starts inside your head with anxiety, which then escalates into a fake consensus, which leads to an action nobody wants, and then it ends, just like we saw, with everybody blaming each other. So those first 2 phases, they happen entirely inside your own mind. It starts with what's called action anxiety, that nervous feeling you get about saying what you actually want. And then you justify that feeling with negative fantasies. You start imagining the worst. Oh, they'll think I'm being difficult, or I'll start a big argument. You convince yourself that just going along with it is way easier than speaking the truth. Now, phase 3 is the real tipping point. This is where the paradox really grabs hold. Because it's not enough to just stay quiet. You actually actively lie about what you want. You say, that sounds like a great idea, when what you're really thinking is, this is a terrible idea. This is the moment a group decides together to create a reality that nobody wants.
Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that's a quirky family story, but the stakes get so much higher when this exact same paradox pops up at work.
Just imagine this scenario, right? A CEO suggests a really risky merger. The VP privately thinks it's a one-way ticket to disaster, but out loud says, that's brilliant vision, boss, just to stay on the CEO's good side. The CFO looks at the numbers and sees total bankruptcy, but says, well, the numbers could work because they don't want to be the negative one. And the result? $1 billion catastrophe that every single person in charge knew was a bad idea from the start. And this really gets us to the absolute core lesson of the Abilene paradox. We spend so much time and energy learning how to deal with conflict, but the real hidden danger inside any group is almost always the mismanagement of agreement. Now, it's really important to separate this from something similar called the spiral of silence. With the spiral of silence, you have a minority opinion that stays quiet because they're afraid of being isolated. But with the Abilene paradox, pretty much everyone is secretly in the majority. And the action isn't just keeping your mouth shut, it's actively lying and saying yes. You're not thinking, I'm the only one who feels this way. You're thinking, it seems like everyone else wants this, except for me. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Think about the last team meeting you were in, or the last family get-together, or even just the last time you and your friends were trying to figure out where to get dinner. Was everyone truly on board? Or were you all just smiling politely, trapped on a bus together, headed down that long, dusty road to Abilene?